In this session from July 20th, 2024, we begin the session by talking about how past experiences become embedded in our consciousness, especially if they're negative experiences. And they can affect our self-image, our self-esteem, the way that we view ourselves and the world. My book, Mind, Time, and Power, is called Using the Hidden Power of Your Mind to Change Your Past, Transform Your Present, and Create Your Future. And on the back cover of the book, I asked the question, what if your mind was really a time machine? So this idea of thinking as a form of time travel, where you're getting information from the past, or in terms of a goal, you're getting information about the future. This session, we're talking about how our past experiences, especially negative experiences, can affect us for years, coloring our self-image, how we see the world, how we see ourselves, and whether or not we're willing to take chances to move ahead in our life, depending on the residual effect of some of these past negative experiences and how we can re-examine them in our imagination, change the meaning of them, and shift them from being negative to being neutral or even perhaps positive. And examining our feelings and emotions and our memories is one of the prime purposes of using this Plan Your Life Mental Magic Workbook, which you receive when you join our mailing list. And I talk about a meditation exercise called Changing the Past, which you can find on our YouTube channel. We have a host, Jessica, who's usually here, but she's busy today, so that's why I'm the host with the most here. Yeah, and this idea of being aware of how you're thinking, in other words, how you're framing it, what are you thinking about? That is so important. I'll give you an example. When I was a kid, I talk about this in my one-man play, but I've mentioned it a few times on these calls too. And that is that when I had this original dream, this dream when I was 10 years old, I fell asleep outside. I had this kind of epiphany, right? And I saw myself at the age of 32, and I've been working on that thing ever since then. That's 65 years ago, right? Something like that. Well, what happened was I got so excited when I had this dream. I thought, man, this is really something special. I think God just talked to me. That's what I thought. And so I went running home all excited. And my mother was in the kitchen, and I ran in the house, and I was like, so excited. And I said, Mom, guess what? When I get older, I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to be a university professor. I'm going to be making my living as a public speaker. I'm going to be famous. That's what I said. And so my mother laughed. Right? And I remember I felt crushed. And my thought was, she doesn't trust me. She doesn't think this is important. She does. I'm doing something wrong. Right? Now, that idea or that collection of ideas, like having her laugh at me and me interpreting that, giving it a meaning to say, you're foolish, you're silly, that's not going to happen, it's impossible. And me feeling belittled, crushed, not good, right? Those parameters, if I call them that, those sort of feelings and emotions and meanings, they became embedded in my mind and in my body, right? And so for years and years and years, I mean, literally decades, that feeling of there's something wrong with me, I'm not good enough, that stuck in my mind and in my body and in my self-image, and it affected my self-esteem literally for decades. And it colored so much of my life because I can think back several times when I was offered either jobs or opportunities came up, and I would think, if I take this job, they're not going to like me. I'm not going to be able to do a good job, and I'll probably end up getting fired, So I would turn the job down, right? And I did that kind of thing numerous times. I mean, I could go back in my life and I could think of literally probably a dozen different times when I avoided an opportunity because I was afraid I wouldn't be good enough and I would be disappointed. And I think what I was doing was I was literally replaying that experience in the kitchen with my mom, right? Saying something, and then getting sort of belittled and laughed at, kind of. Well, the number of times that I went back to that experience and tried to reframe it and think about it differently and, put a different spin on it, literally, I did that over and over, probably 100 times or 1,000 times over the years. When I first learned about visualization, meditation, NLP, those sorts of things. And one day I suddenly realized, well, all of this pain that I'm feeling and all of this negativity, it all comes from the way that I'm experiencing this. So I'm experiencing it associated. Now that's a term from NLP, right? So you can experience something associated, meaning you're in your body, you're looking through your own eyes in the past, and you're re-experiencing that situation as if you're there again, right? Well, you can also experience it disassociated, meaning you're watching it as though you're watching somebody else go through it. So when I started to review that experience in my mind, disassociated, and I asked myself, what state was I in when that happened? And what I realized was I was in a really strange, unusual state. I was kind of high, I was excited. I thought God was talking to me. I thought this was an amazing experience. I had a glimpse of my future, And so what I did was I said to myself, if I had thought about it, and especially if I had somebody with me before I went into the kitchen, and that person said, don't expect your mother to get this. Don't expect your mother to understand this. She's busy, she's doing the laundry or whatever. Calm down, don't expect that you're going to get approval for this. Don't have it mean anything about you. Well, if that had happened and I had actually told her that with that sort of caveat in my mind, and she laughed or the same thing happened, I might have said, who cares? What does she know, right? I mean, she doesn't know what I'm talking about, right? So what happened was I learned that if I view that situation disassociated from the outside and I talk myself through it, all of those negative feelings and negative meanings about me not being good enough and my mother doesn't love me and there's something wrong, I'm stupid, whatever, all those things, they all basically melted away. And that came after me probably reviewing that experience in my mind, literally, I would say 100 times over the years, right? And so everything shifted then. I realized, that reaction that I had to my mother's reaction, it was largely based on the fact that I was in a highly charged emotional state. And at the root of it, I think, was my feeling that I came from a family of 6 kids, right? I had 2 older brothers, 2 younger sisters, and 1 younger brother. So I was kind of in the middle. And around that time when I had that dream, I was struggling to sort of figure out where I fit in the family. My eldest brother was going to be a priest, so he got all kinds of kudos for that. The second brother, he was a champion athlete in school, so he got all kinds of praise for being an athlete. My 2 younger sisters, they were cute, cuddly, and fun, And here was me going, where's my place in this family? Where do I fit? Who am I? What's my identity in this family? And I'm pretty sure that when I told my mother that story about the dream that I had, I was anticipating a big hug and her saying, "Oh, you're so smart, and I'm so proud of you," because I was feeling like I needed that. In other words, I was feeling kind of in a weak state. Well, when I didn't get that, man, it hurt, and it hurt for decades, right? So this idea of reviewing the past from a different angle, thinking about it, trying on different meanings, different ways of looking at it, looking at where it came from, what were you doing before that experience, and what were you doing after the experience? I can't say enough about the value of repeatedly going back and analyzing those kind of situations, especially if there's situations that have a big impact on your feelings and your emotions and your self-image, which is what this one did for me. Comments, Greg?
All right, I was getting a text there from a family member.
Oh, you didn't listen? Oh, no, you missed my great story there. Oh, no.
I was listening to the whole thing, but the end there. I just missed the very end of it, but
now I have a video on YouTube which is called "Changing the Past," and I think I was doing that. I was listening to that video, that meditation exercise. That's really what it is. It's a meditation exercise, and I think I was listening to that. And one of the things on there, if you listen to it, it says, when this situation happened that you're thinking about changing, or that you want to change, what were you doing just before? What happened that you didn't expect? How did you react to it? Could you have reacted a little differently? And I think that helped me shift that thing around, because for years I hadn't thought about any of those things. All that happened was every time I thought about that, I just instantly felt bad. And I tried to avoid thinking about it as much as I could.
Anthony, I totally agree with what you're saying. We have all these negative beliefs about ourselves and our subconscious. And then when something happens, these negative beliefs come up, and maybe it says, you're not worthy. So my reaction creates an emotional charge, and my reaction is going to be based on that belief I'm not worthy. So the idea is to go back and take a look at it. I mean, a lot of stuff for me happened when I was 12 years old. And so I didn't, so I go back and look at it, what happened, and reframe it. And, so slowly we get rid of these. So we slowly get rid of these negative beliefs we have about ourselves and our subconscious. We just clear it out so that when a situation comes up, rather than a negative belief system, it's a positive belief system comes up. I mean, we got all this shit stored in our subconscious, growing up as kids, and we believe that it's true about ourselves based on our perception of that time.
Yeah.
I think just go back and take a look at it.
Well, one of the things that one of the things that shifted it for me was I stopped taking it personally, like rather than having it mean something about me, I shifted the whole thing around to look at what process was I using at that point. What was I doing, right? And I think, and I think this is true, I was expecting to use that experience as a way to get my mom's attention. And for her to say, "Oh, you're so special." Well, she didn't do that. She said, "Oh, you're so silly, you're crazy," right? And totally different from what I was hoping for. And that was the big problem. So what I did after a while was I shifted the meaning of that thing around to from, it says something negative about me, which is what I thought about it for years. Now what I say is the process that I was using was wrong. It was a faulty process. Anthony Robbins talks about it doesn't matter how hard you work. If you're heading east to look for the sunset, it's not going to work. You're doing something wrong. You have to go the other way, right? And so the idea that I was using this process to try and sort of boost my esteem with my mother, well, it didn't work. At least I don't think it worked. I mean, it certainly didn't work for me. Now, my memory of it is kind of faulty because immediately that happened, I felt so bad that I kind of blanked on it. So I really don't know what happened. I just remember, if I remember this at all, I mean, that she laughed, right? And I thought, ooh, she's laughing at me. She thinks I'm stupid or silly, right? Well, even if she did laugh, she might have been like, it might have been a loving laugh, like it might have been, "Oh, you're so cute. You're always coming up with these crazy ideas." Right? So it might have been a loving laugh, but I didn't get that at the time because, it hurt. So.
That's so true. We don't know, what's going on with your mother at that time. And yeah, she was,
Exactly.
"Wow, Anthony, you're such a cute kid. I love what you
Yeah.
do, your story." And so we're so special. It's always about
Right.
us.
Yeah.
The same thing, it's the projection we put on. I could be doing a speech and someone's yawning, and my first, "Oh, they're bored."
Exactly.
Boring them. Maybe they're up at 3 o'clock dealing with a sick parent. So I mean, we put all these projections out on what we're thinking about us. It's
I know Liza Minnelli, apparently she used to get so stage frightened, before she went on stage that she used to throw up, and she was just, she was a basket case, right? And she could be at Carnegie Hall singing her songs and dancing and whatever. And she said, there could be 2,500 people in the audience, and if she saw one person looking at their cell phone or something, she would feel terrible, and it would ruin the whole show for her, right? It was like, "Oh, they don't care. They don't care about me." So we're not the only ones that have these kind of experiences, right? We would love to have you join us in this online community for $1 a day. You get your own PDF copy of the book upon which this entire training series is based, along with 2 powerful meditation visualization recordings. You also get a free copy of this Design Your Life workbook and a 4-hour video course that tells you how to use it to change your life step by step. You get lifetime access to all of this on day 1, and you can cancel your registration at any time. Just go to mindtimeandpower.com and click the link to join the online community.